Soundstripe.
Welcome to South End Supporters, a St. Louis City SC podcast powered by Ready to Live Wellness and coming at you from the Warrior Logo Wear studio. David Heck alongside the Monday morning center back Dave Wyckoff, as Eric Cole can, I guess, only be described as vacationing in the Hamptons this week. Dave, he's not with us this evening.
He does run in moneyed circles, as we know. But it's a Dave heavy episode. 2 Daves, no waiting. How about that?
I like it. Heavy. Emphasis on the heavy side.
Much less heavy these days, though. Much less heavy these days.
It's true. It's weird. You and I used to host a podcast together. A lot of people don't know this, but we were hosting podcasts, Dave, before podcasts were a thing.
Yeah, Blog Talk Radio.
This goes back to, what, 2009, 2010?
I don't know the years, Dave. Yeah.
Man, it was a long, long time ago. But honestly, all jokes aside, I don't know what Eric's up to. He just said he can't join us this week, and so we said, well, we've got to keep the show rolling. And we've decided as a group, if there's 2 of us, now that's a quorum, Dave. So we're going to go ahead and break down everything that took place in Philadelphia. And then, of course, later on this week, we will bring the Felix's Pizza Pub South End submissions. And it sounds like there's some strong appearances this week for that episode. So you'll want to make sure to tune in, as always, on Thursday. But before we get into that, of course, plenty to discuss from the game that was on Saturday night. An early one. I love these East Coast games, Dave. I've said it before. I hope at some point City finds themselves in the East instead of the West, because a 6:30 Central start is so much more enjoyable than a 9:30 Central start. Unfortunately, City did not come out on top as Philadelphia scores the first goal against City this season and defeats them 1-0.
Do you think that they were still in the mood or in mode for kicking off an hour later? Do you think that's what it was? Do you think it had anything to do with
I think it was.
The old internal clock? Because they sure didn't come out like they were ready to play at 6:30 Central Time.
No, it wasn't the strongest of performances, and you've seen it all over socials at this point. People are ready to make all sorts of decisions for this club. You and I were talking a little bit about it before we started recording, and it seems like there might be some overreaction out there, but then also potentially some underreaction. I kind of liked what you said in that. I'd love to get your perspective on it, because certainly prisoner of the moment, was not a good performance at all by the squad, and certainly a long season ahead. They have plenty of time to right the ship. But you also mentioned some perhaps could be, under, or what was the word you were looking for there? But anyway, not taking it as seriously as it potentially could have been taken. You were not impressed by this. I'd love to get your understanding of things here, Dave.
No, it was a Flop-adelphia for sure.
I texted that to the group, by the way.
You
I want to coin that.
You did, and that is the perfect episode title, too. I just wanted to make sure that we got that out there, and so no one else takes it before. But I think just like you said, we were talking before we hit record, it was from beginning to end a very underwhelming, underprepared effort from everybody. And we'll get into the starting lineup, in a minute. But it did not seem like they were set up mentally or tactically to succeed this game. And it's really frustrating because I don't think you're going to get an opportunity against top teams on the road like this very often in the middle of squad rotation, when you are still, despite not having your starting right back and your starting keeper, you are still relatively healthy at this point in the season. But it was just poor and uninspired, and I'm really shocked at how they could come out so relatively flat. It's hard to play on the road, and Philadelphia fans create hostile environments everywhere. That's what they're known for. But man, to just be that poor when expectations were that you were going to keep all this momentum rolling, it really kind of was a shock to the system. And to build on what you mentioned, social media is always going to be a place, an origin point for overreaction, right? I mean, everything from, and this is across the board, right? This is, the exposure I have right now is Instagram and Twitter and Reddit. Reddit and Twitter definitely seem to be ready to fire Melberg, can Lutz, get rid of Klaus, and start over again. Which I think, it's natural. Like, it was disappointing. Like, a lot of issues reared their head in this game that have been able to be suppressed so far in the first 4 games, where you didn't take a loss and you didn't concede a goal. But I think that there's a happy median somewhere, right? Like, where you can acknowledge that the effort was poor and the result was poor, but at the same time, you really only lost 1-0. And if you are sharper, if you're more clinical, as we've talked about through the whole first month and a half of the season, that game's very easily a draw or a win for City. I mean, don't get me wrong, and we'll talk about this more as we go on. They were totally saved this game by Ben Lundt. He played out of his mind. He did not play like a backup keeper. But the fact remains that the game was there to be, the results were there. The points were there to be taken. And it just comes down to lack of being clinical again.
Yeah, Lundt played amazing, and I'm not sure the defense was as good as it has been up to this point. They had a lot of shots. I mean, it seemed like so many opportunities for Philadelphia, but Lundt made 7 saves on the 8 that actually were on target. The one that was scored was a header off a corner in the first half early on there. But in situations like that where somebody's throwing a corner up into the box, things can happen. It's not always Lundt's fault in a situation like that. But some of the saves that he made were dare I say it, Dave, Berkey-esque. I think that people have backed off of. We're not in a good spot with Ben Lundt, right? Like, I think we are, and I think people are starting to realize that. The concern remains being able to score goals. You're sitting 5 games in at this point and only have 4 of them, and essentially have scored in 2 games at this point, right? So how do we figure out a way to generate more offense? And we'll certainly break that down, but I do think it's important to just address the way that Ben Lundt played.
Yeah.
I don't know about the distribution, right? Like, I think that's maybe still something that you can talk about. He does kick the ball a long way downfield, I have noticed a few times, but it's not always on target. But the way that he reacts to shots and the way that he uses his frame, he's deceptively quick for a huge individual. I'm just blown away at how good he's played. I can't imagine there's a lot of backup keepers in the MLS that are as solid as Ben Lundt right now.
Yeah, he's a good athlete. I mean, that's the advantage of having 2 super athletic keepers is exactly what you saw on Saturday. He can make quick reaction saves, and he's a big physical presence, so you're not going to usually beat him high. He's got more length to make saves, going post to post. He got tested a couple times low and made a couple good foot saves, which is kind of what you worry about with a bigger keeper, is being able to get down low. His distribution is not the same as Berkey's, in that I don't think that he is ever going to be as aggressive as Berkey when he makes a save and comes out and fires an overhand rocket, right? Or tries to hit a belter for somebody to run onto. And again, I don't think that they have done him any favors so far in the way that we set up, because we're not set up to play like that. So it doesn't make any sense for him to take the ball and just smoke it down the field into a corner, because Betcher's not going to run those down. And Teutsch, has been off this year as far as being able to run those down, although he did create a few more chances this time. But no, he played fantastic. And I want to back up to what you said about the defense. I thought the defense was fine. They still only 1 goal, right? Even though there were more shots. I thought the back 3 in particular were fine. I think a lot of the problem is in the midfield, man. I said it last year and the first year, like this 2-man next to each other midfield that is not connected and doesn't communicate is just getting wrecked right now. And with the way that Carnal's teams like to play fast, it looked like they were shell-shocked at how fast that Philly wanted to play on the counter. And Leuven in particular looked really sluggish in defense. Durkin's not a holding midfield player, so that might be a bit of a problem moving forward, unless this might be the biggest red flag in the world to put Morales in there, because you're going to have problems if that happens. And last point to the defensive weakness, man, I think Akil Watts it seems like he's a fantastic person and he is a try hard to the end, He does not look like a professional MLS player right now. He looks like he belongs in City 2, especially last night. He was, to put it mildly, lost. That's the only way you can describe it, just lost in all ways. I had some stats that I sent you guys that came from Foot Mob, and let me bring them up real quick. I'm sorry I didn't have it. So Akil Watts had the least touches of any outfield player to play 90 minutes. He had 37 touches in 90 minutes. That's crazy to me. That is like, those are substitute numbers. So, and again, there's not real context into that other than he was playing out of position, but that's just kind of symptomatic of how lost he was. And then Akil Watts lost the most duels, so 1v1s fighting for the ball, 8 in one match. I mean, he had, if you're familiar with Foot Mob and their player ratings, he had by far the worst player rating in the game. So
is that like a, yeah, I mean, thinking about the duels lost, do you have like data or context to back up what a typical, right back or left back would have?
I could look up real quickly what their right back had because I just know that it's not normal it's not normal to lose 8 duels, right? Yeah. Like it's just, and again, he's out of position. You could say that, but at the same time, the eye test in general, he just didn't look, he never looked comfortable. He lost 4 of 9 ground duels. His passing percentage was 56%. Like it's just not going to cut it. And I'm not laying all the blame on him. He and Durkin and Leuven, to me, had visibly the poorest games. And I'll throw Marcel Hartl in there too, because he has not looked like himself at all. So
that's a season thing, right? Like that's been going on for a bit now.
Yeah. And how do we score more goals? Oh, man, you're going to need a longer podcast for that. It all comes from the buildup, and the buildup is so disconnected and disjointed right now in that you're winning the ball, and then you're immediately giving it away in dangerous areas. And I don't know why they look so frenetic sometimes. I felt like coming into this season, like that was a symptom of Carnal's team, that was the frenetic pace and, try to get the ball forward as quick as possible and that. But it just, again, it's one of those things that keeps popping up. And when you're winning and when you're picking up points and you're getting clean sheets, everybody's happy. But as soon as you go down and you lose a game like this, alarm bells start to go off.
The city brought out Lundt, Watts, Hebert, Kessler, Horn, Wallum, Leuven, Durkin, Teutschert, Hartl, and Betcher was the starting 11. We talked about Lundt's play. We've talked now about Watts' play and then touched on Leuven's a bit. Was there anybody else in the starting 11 outside of Ben Lundt that impressed you Saturday night?
I mean, Kessler's, strong as could be. I thought Hebert had a good game. Relatively speaking. I mean, it's tough, man. You're on the back foot the whole time. They're dealing with a press. Two high pressing teams now in San Diego and Philly that have given City fits because of our lack of quality with progressive passing. And that's never going to be Kyle Hebert's strong suit, but he does the best that he can. I just thought that they got caught off guard and they never made the right adjustments. And then, as we'll get into, by the time the right adjustments were getting ready to be made, it became too late. It got taken out of their hands. But yeah, I don't know, man. I thought that Teutschert put himself in dangerous positions, but he blew some chances that you have to bury. If you're going to play that game where you absorb that pressure like that and you're playing just strictly like 2 or 3 man counterattack, you can't have the ball ricocheting off your bad foot when you're on a breakaway. It's just not acceptable. It's not acceptable in any league, right? I mean, people joke about the MLS being this sort of clown league. That could look very clownish when that happened, and was like the 34th minute or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I thought Betcher did some pretty good things distributing the ball. We mentioned the back heel a bit earlier as well. That Teutschert, he didn't whiff on it. He just didn't he kicked it right at the goalie. Right.
He topped it. He hit
a piece of the net.
He hit the top half of the ball right into the ground. And even if the goalie doesn't save that, I think that one gets cleared off the line. Yeah, Betcher Betcher played okay. I just thought that he wasn't set up for, his hold up play was actually much better. So yeah, and I'm thinking back to it, I thought Betcher played fine. He also, that type of game, he was doing S. Housery right off the bat, but I think he may have gotten a little too pulled into that. I think the whole team did. Philly's kind of an S. House team. We found that out, and you can't let yourself get pulled into that. It's too, especially in a 1-0 game, man. Like that's what you're one lucky bounce away from taking a point, and you let them get into your head with the delay and whatever was said from the sideline and some challenges that were a little dirty. But you can't get dragged into it. That's exactly what they want.
It was like one flop after another. I felt like there were so many players on the ground for Philadelphia throughout this thing, and it felt like City was getting a bit frustrated with it. And it bled over into the post game. We'll get into that, of course, because I think that's what took up a lot of the social media outside of the play itself. But I'm curious, right? Like thinking about in your situation, playing teams like that have a really hard time just being able to generate any flow to the game, right? Because there's constant just guys on the like that takes a little bit of momentum away from you too, right? Like there were opportunities and chances that might have started to develop, and then the next thing you know, there's a guy that's down because of an elbow that might have missed its target, and it just flops, right? And that's what you saw a lot of it. Like that's got to be super frustrating as a player, I would think.
Yeah, you can't do anything about it either, especially when you're down. It feels like you're chasing the game, and then it feels like you're playing against the ref almost too. And I wouldn't even say the referee had a bad game. They let the referee.
I didn't love it, Dave.
Yeah, they didn't let him. They let him roll around on the ground a little too much. But to be fair, I mean that ref kept Chris Durkin in the game. Chris Durkin should have gotten sent off with a second yellow with that elbow. He probably should have been gone. I didn't think it was bad. You have to establish control of teams that are going to take advantage of the fouls and stuff like that early. And if you don't, then they're going to just continue to do that. And they started handing out yellows late for time wasting and whatnot. But I don't think this was down to the referees. I mean, it was a physical game. It reminded me of like that first year. I think there was a game against Portland where there were like 25 fouls, and it was at Portland. It was an early season. And there's just no flow. But if you're going to play a defensive game like that, and you're going to absorb all that pressure, that's what's going to happen. City don't play a free-flowing, box-to-box, sideline-to-sideline style game. So if all the games are played in a 20-yard area, then that's what you're going to have.
Notice we didn't call them City Slickers. We haven't mentioned City Slickers once in this podcast, Dave, but the broadcast crew found it necessary to say it multiple times. I am usually a broadcast apologist. I don't typically... I don't know. Like I've done it before, right? Like, and I don't usually go after play-by-play guys because I do think it's genuinely a difficult task. Soccer, I think, especially would be tough. I've never done play-by-play for soccer before, but I've done it for football. I've done it for basketball, baseball, softball, some of the other sports out there. I have not done it for soccer. I've not done it for hockey. I think hockey would be really tough as well because of how fast-paced it is. But the MLS broadcast crew, I just think missed on this one a little bit. There are some really good announcers, I think, with the MLS. And I know you and I would agree to disagree on a couple of them. I personally think that the insights that Taylor Twellman provides are good, and I think he's good on the mic. But whatever was going on in this one just missed the mark for me anyway. And I don't typically pay that close attention to when people fail, but it just really wasn't good.
I'm not fully convinced that the main announcer was watching the game. I'm not fully convinced that he was the whole time. He made some misidentifications a couple times, and it was like those players aren't even close to looking the same. And then the City Slickers thing, and it was just rough. It was just really rough. You mentioned that you thought soccer was difficult to do, and I'm sure it is. But if you talk about like the four majors, like soccer is other than baseball, and I think baseball is harder to do because you have more time to fill. I think soccer allows you to let the game play out and let the crowd be sort of like a second narrator to build the narrative.
Yeah,
like if you watch an English game, there's very little that's said. Like you think about like in basketball or in hockey, the especially the American sports, A passes to B passes to C, who swings it over to D. You know what I mean? That sort of cadence. You don't have that in like the English Premier League, and you don't have that when you watch like the Bundesliga. It's very much like you let the play flow, and then every 3 or 4 passes they'll say, "Oh, out to somebody who brings it back in." It's a lot more letting the crowd because the crowd can tell the story through the like slow escalation of volume. Like when you have a counter, like soccer crowds recognize that. Like it's almost like it's almost like how a good crowd in a football game sees a punt return like open up, right? I mean, you could almost let the crowd tell the story of, oh, this guy's going to score a touchdown or any sort of long touchdown. So I honestly think that in soccer, less is more. I think some of my favorite soccer broadcasters really just, and your guy Ian Dark does a great job.
Ian Dark's the man, dude.
He does a great job of just kind of adding little nuances and little tidbits, and then as the play sort of crescendos, yeah, he'll tell you who's going to score or where the ball. He adds detail to it, but he doesn't take over. And I feel like all the MLS announcers try to take over the broadcast, and they try to tell the story instead of letting the game tell the story.
Yeah, I talked to Chris Kerber back a long time ago. So Chris Kerber, voice of the Blues on the radio, was my play-by-play instructor when I was in school. And we talked a lot about different sports, and obviously he does hockey. And I always said, man, and I don't know hockey, right, at all. But he's talking about how hockey is really not as difficult as one would think. To me, it seems impossible. But he's like, all you're doing is reacting to the play. There's really not much else to expound upon, right? Whereas baseball, and he went down this path with baseball because there's so much stoppage and so many breaks that you have to fill. You really got to be a good storyteller. So it's a lot harder to actually call baseball. Play-by-play guys, while they're not the traditional color commentator, they have to provide a lot of color and just kind of make conversation. So when you listen to a baseball broadcast, it is very much almost in some ways what you and I are doing right now. There's a lot of back and forth between the two in the booth, or kicking it down to a sideline reporter and talking to a third man. So it is different. But to me, like soccer, I think it's probably just because I don't know it quite like the other sports where I think it would be difficult. I just noticed that, and I felt like something was off. I just was like, man, the people that really rip play-by-play guys are going to have a field day with whoever this is in the booth tonight, because it just wasn't great. Yeah.
I don't know where they were most of the time. It just felt very forced, and I think that the top 3 or 4 MLS broadcast pairings are really good.
I do too.
But it's just this pairing in particular. Maybe this had an off night. I thought the broadcast in general had a really poor night. I think way too often the Apple broadcasts get caught zooming in camera angles on one player or another and telling part of their story or trying to frame some narrative, and there are chances going on. There are things happening, and I don't know if it happens late. They recognize, oh yeah, the goalie had to make a save there. It was kind of befitting that game, ugly broadcast,
ugly pitch,
Oh, don't get me started.
That was horrendous. Horrendous. It looks like somebody drove a 4-wheeler around that thing.
It is absolutely unacceptable to me that the highest level of professional soccer in this country, arguably in North America, and they ran them out on that field where there was visible sand poured into ruts.
Terrible.
And you could see some, and this did not keep City from scoring, at least not directly. A few of the long balls that were played bogged down in those crappy areas and backspun. We were talking about the first week when City played, when they had the really long grass because it was February. It did the same thing. Long balls in soccer, it's not a golf ball. You're not hitting a pitching wedge. There's not that much backspin onto where it should check up. So yeah, it's unacceptable. It's an embarrassment, and it really makes me kind of terrified for when the World Cup comes around, because they're not going to. They're going to have to install grass. I don't even know if Philly is a host city. It would make sense if they are, but they're going to have to install grass in a lot of these places where there is turf, and it's like a disaster waiting to happen if we have to see World Cup play on fields like that.
Oh, that was ugly. And to your point, it was just like it. I don't know. It kind of went into the entire broadcast as a whole. It just wasn't. It wasn't great. Just the look of it, the look and feel of it, was not what you would typically get. My biggest complaint about Apple, because it's not necessarily the broadcast team's fault that the games are hard to find and not readily available outside of the package. My biggest complaint about Apple is that you can't listen to the home radio broadcast when the team is on the road.
Yeah.
So one of the great features, it's an amazing feature of home games, is you can turn it over and listen to Dale and Joey do the radio feed, and it's perfectly synced to the actual play. So if you didn't want to listen to the MLS broadcast when City was playing at home, you could go over and toggle and find the radio broadcast to hear those guys. And I do that whenever I'm not at games, but I am at most of the games. So it doesn't do as much for me. I would prefer to have that option on the road. And it would make like all the sense in the world to do that. So if you go to the radio broadcast, you would be listening to Philadelphia's radio broadcast. There isn't an option to listen to St. Louis's. I feel like if the team's on the road, that's when it would make the most sense. Because again, when they're at home, so many people have the opportunity to just go to the game. So that's kind of where I would come in. I would prefer to hear it that way. But, either here nor there, like we're not going to solve all the world's problems on this one podcast, Dave. A couple of things I want to get into here as we kind of wind down in this particular segment, breaking down the game. The play itself we discussed, right? Not necessarily spectacular. There were a lot of cards given. Leuven picked up a second yellow late in the game for like a wasting time. It looked like he kind of kicked the ball out. It looked like it was out of frustration. Certainly City is not wanting to waste time in this situation because they're down and it's late in the game. Did you think it was the right call? I don't know. I legitimately don't know. I know that people were furious about it on the socials. Most people mad at Leuven saying he knows better. I'm sure that's probably where you're going to go with it as well. To me, it seemed overly punitive in the situation. I understand he was already on a yellow, but that caused him to miss the rest of this game and said he'd have to play down a man.
Yeah, and he's going to miss Sunday against Austin too, so don't forget about that.
That's a good point.
Yeah, I'll start with the rule itself. I agree with the way that it's being enforced across the world. Kicking the ball away is an automatic yellow. And that's the way that they're doing it in every major league and every major competition across the world right now. So it's not as if these players are not aware that if you do this, you're going to pick up a yellow. Being a leader of the team, I don't know if he was wearing the captain's band. I'm assuming he was. You have to know better. There's just no two ways about it. Like, you can be frustrated and you can be angry. He should have been angry at his own play and his own effort. And he probably was. And I get that. But the game is bigger than you and your frustrations. And it was just really dumb and not understanding the moment and having that rush of blood to the head. And you went from, I believe he was going to be one of the ones to come out, is what they said on the broadcast. Now, I don't know that would have made sense because Durkin was on a yellow also, and I kind of feel like Morales was coming in for Durkin because Durkin had already kind of escaped having that second yellow. Maybe that's not the case. I don't know. But what I do know is that you went down to 10 men right when you were getting ready to make substitutions to flip the momentum. Now, the momentum flipped either way, which is kind of crazy that you played your best stretch with 10 men and without your supposed distributor. But no, long story short, the leaders on this team, and Leuven just happens to be the one in the spotlight here, but the leaders on this team, the best players on this team have to be the best players, and they have to execute better, and they have to hold themselves to a higher standard. And that's all there is to it. If you don't do that, if you don't have your best effort out of your best players, you'll never be anything more than a mid-table wild card sort of team. That's all there is to it.
Yeah, and Morales always comes in for Leuven, it sounds like. So it's probably what was going to happen interesting, just unfortunate. And to your point, you got to keep a cool head about you. The frustration continued, and that's what we had talked about earlier on, right? Is like they seemed frustrated from the get-go. The frustration certainly spilled over to the end of the game. I want to talk about what went on between Klaus and Carnal. I didn't catch this on the broadcast. I don't know if I turned it off early, but I saw a lot of people posting about it. It looked like they got into a little spat. It might have started during the game when Klaus was on the sideline dealing with maybe a throw-in or a ball that was close to Carnal. What did you make of this? Like, anything worth reading into here?
I don't think so. I think it's a lot about nothing. I think that there was frustration from City from all the stand down and all the S-housery and everything that Philly was doing. But again, like if you let them get to you like that, you played right into their hands. Yeah. Now, nobody will ever know what was said in between the two of them other than Klaus and Carnal. And Carnal already on the post game refused to answer anything about it. So maybe that tells you what you need to know. Maybe he knows these players better than anybody. So maybe he knew what to say to them, or who knows, man. It's much ado about nothing. They're not in the same conference. What you wouldn't see him again. Maybe you note it for somewhere further down the line. But hey, what does our buddy Ben Zering say? If you don't like losing, get better. And
get better.
That's get better. You don't earn the right to talk trash unless you win, and they won. So that's all there is to it.
Carnal's figured out something over there in Philadelphia, and I don't know if it's a personnel thing or if the players they have just in general fit to his style better than they were here. I think there probably was some sort of a locker room issue that was going on. I mean, you saw all sorts of problems. Adeniran's the one that stands out the most whenever Carnal was here, but it just seems like there might have been some sort of an issue where people didn't vibe well with him here for whatever reason, and a lot of it was just behind closed doors, and ultimately gets the exit. But regardless, he's got a first-place squad in the East right now with 12 points with Philadelphia, and City sits with just 9 points now in fifth place. 2 wins, 2 draws, and its first loss, giving up its first goal in a 1-0 loss.
Have you watched that Onside show yet? The documentary show that's on Apple TV or that's on MLS Season Pass?
I don't believe so.
Okay.
Maybe.
I need to check it out, mostly because one of the previews that they did before the game was the conversation that Carolyn, Kendall, Lutz, and Diego had about, hey, I think it's time to move on from head coach. And I just got a little blurb of that, and I think it may have come out tonight. But
okay.
I have to check that out. It's the same. I believe it's the same producers that did the F1 series that everybody likes so much, to Drive to Survive. I'm pretty sure. Yep. I don't think I'm making that up. But I love.
You say it came out tonight, Dave?
I think that episode. So my assumption is they were previewing that episode because it dropped today. I could be wrong.
Okay. I've been watching basketball all day. Dave, my bracket is busted.
Yeah.
It is busted.
Yeah.
Busted, I tell you.
SIUE really let you down, didn't they?
Yeah, they did, man. I had them going to the Sweet 16.
Yeah.
No, I'm kidding. I did have Illinois going further, though, and they just got beat by Kentucky.
Yeah.
So not great at all there. But again, City drops one to Philadelphia. They will travel back home, I should say, to take on Austin on Sunday, a 1:15 kickoff.
Sunday
and we'll
matinee.
Get into that. A Sunday matinee. Are you going to be in attendance on Sunday, Dave?
Not likely.
I plan on it. The only issue is that my daughter has a softball tournament out of town. So if I get back in time, I'll be there. If not, I won't. 'Tis the season for all the activities for me, and it's been a real challenge. I did think about this before. Eric Cole not here with us today. Probably out getting his swole on over at Ready to Live Wellness, Dave. That guy, man, he is like a specimen and just super dedicated to his fitness and health, Dave. And you know what? Good for him is what I would say.
He's somewhere looking so good and so swole.
So it might be at Ready to Live Wellness. That is your go-to destination for holistic health and healing in the heart of St. Louis, located right at 1530 South Kings Highway Boulevard. Ready to Live Wellness offers a full spectrum of services designed to help you look, feel, and live better naturally, whether you're looking for IV hydration, therapy, body sculpting, infrared saunas. Dave, I think you just purchased a sauna. That's very exciting. Congratulations to you, sir. But if you didn't have one, you could go check one out at Ready to Live Wellness. They also offer nutritional counseling. Their expert team is focused on helping you reach your personal wellness goals in a warm, welcoming location. Check them out at Ready to Live Wellness. That's 1530 South Kings Highway Boulevard, and follow them online at R2L Wellness. Dave, when you have had too many kolaches, you need to go over to Ready to Live Wellness. But if you do want a kolache, there's only one place to go for that, sir.
There really is, and that's STL Kolache in Sunset Hills. Go see our buddy EC. He'll hook you up with these delicious kolaches. If you never had one before, you got to try them. You can have them from breakfast all the way through dinner. 1530. God, lost my live read spot, Dave. 1530 Kirkwood. We have so many 1530s, I can't keep them straight.
I know, it's South Kirkwood.
1530 South Kirkwood Road, at the intersection of Kirkwood Road and Watson, next to Highway 44. This particular location, as we said before, is the home of the original chicken enchilada kolache, which is seasoned chicken with diced onions, tomatoes, enchilada sauce, chilies, and cheese. It sounds fantastic. We are currently working on putting together a YouTube short, Cuties in Cars Eating Kolaches. That'll come to you hopefully sooner rather than later. But if you can't wait, if you want to go check these out on your own, 1530 South Kirkwood Road, the intersection of Kirkwood Road and Watson, next to Highway 44. And if you're partaking in the Lenten season, if you like to stay away from the meat on Fridays, they have this crab rangoon kolache.
I've heard about this. You
got to get out there and try it, people. It's a taste unlike any other. You're not going to find this anywhere else except STL Kolache in Sunset Hills. STL Kolache, we make breakfast better.
I love that. Can you eat a crab rangoon kolache for breakfast, Dave?
You can do whatever you want, baby. This is America. Last time I checked.
This is God. It is. What a great country. That's amazing. I would love to check out one of those crab rangoon kolaches. I haven't had one yet. I also haven't tried the chicken enchilada kolache. But I think, Dave, what I'd like to do, I like to get a box of kolaches and just be able to sample. So when we do Cuties in Cars Eating Kolaches, we just get, or Cuties in Golf Carts, Cuties in Carts Eating Kolaches. Either way, we get a big box and we sample other ones.
I think that's a great idea. Nice. I think that's a great idea.
It's a great idea because look, kolaches, especially if we do a biscuit and gravy, that could get messy on the interior. But if you're in the cart, not as big a deal.
The good thing about the biscuits and gravy one, though, is that the kolache contains itself so very well. Like it's full, but it's not like bursting. Like I don't expect it to like take a bite and biscuit and gravy like take off on me. You know.
Yeah. That would be dangerous too if it were like really hot. Yeah. Because it could burn. Yeah. It could burn the roof of your mouth. I've got a problem with that. I'll eat pizza sometimes, Dave. I've had slices at Felix's. It comes out very hot. And I'll take a bite, and then all of a sudden the roof of my mouth is burnt, and I can't enjoy a meal for like 3 days. Yep.
Just destroys the roof of your mouth. It's pizza in general. Felix's does it does it better than anybody.
They do,
but they will destroy your mouth. Yeah, absolutely.
It is really good. Last thing before we get over to news and notes from the back post, lots and lots of people looking for their logos, their T-shirts, their new clothes to be able to wear, supporting their sports teams. Dave, where can people go to get geared up for this upcoming spring season?
Well, that's the official swag sponsor, the official outfitter of the South End Supporters. Warrior Logo Wear at 12 East Main Street in Mascoutah, Illinois. They're there to meet all your individual and team sportswear needs. They've got hats, hoodies, T-shirts. You can get hooked up with your team uniforms, promo swag, all that good stuff. If you want to support a great local veteran-owned business, get to 12th East Main Street in Mascoutah, Illinois. That's Warrior Logo Wear. And if you're interested in setting up a custom web store for a team, I know that right now a lot of teams, youth sports teams, are trying to raise funds and sell swag and all that good stuff. Warrior Logo Wear can help bring your brand to life online, and it's never been easier. They'll help you launch your custom web store, and they handle everything from setup to shipping. These custom web stores include a fully customizable online store with your products featuring your logo or logo that they will help you design. That's how much they care about your product. They'll help you design your own logo. There's no order.
Dave, I have a question. Do they have hidden fees? What are their thoughts on hidden fees?
Absolutely not. They don't have hidden fees.
No,
you think we'd have somebody who had hidden fees? Get out of here.
No hidden fees?
No
That's
hidden
crazy.
fees with Warrior Logo Wear.
Wow.
Free store setups, and they ship the products directly to your customers or employees. So check them out on Instagram at Warrior Logo Wear. That's all lowercase, at Warrior Logo Wear, capital W, capital L, capital W on Twitter. And then their website is warriorlogowear.com. You can also find their brick and mortar store at 12 East Main Street, Mascoutah, Illinois, the official swag sponsor of the South End Supporters and the Warrior Logo Wear Studios.
It is the studio sponsor as well. Dave, I think I probably, and this is no joke, I think I wear something from Warrior Logo Wear at this point almost every day. Like I work from home,
it's
you
so
know,
funny.
so I don't have to like go out and visit clients. I don't have to dress super nice. I don't think Warrior Logo Wear makes, you know, suits or nice stuff. I mean, maybe they could. I don't know for sure, Dave. They can do anything. But typically, you know, again, custom branded sports, you know, clothing, T-shirts, hats, hoodies, whatever it may be. And I always have one of them on, it seems like. So my whole closet.
I think that's hilarious that you were like repping Warrior Logo Wear before they were a sponsor. And,
oh my God!
Dude, totally.
I mean,
yeah, absolutely.
I mean, I have so much purple. I have so much purple in my house.
It just worked out.
You know, I've showed the hat before. I'm wearing a Warrior Logo Wear hat.
I really love that we have sponsors that we are directly involved in supporting. You know what I mean? Like that's.
Agreed.
I think that's one of the things that I said last week with Eric is what makes this podcast so special. That you like they're sponsoring our podcast, but we also have an emotional interest in making their business better by having
100%.
our listeners driven to there. And there might be some news early next week, David, about a new sponsor, perhaps. We're talking new sponsors. And one that's near, and one that's super near and dear to me. It's a really big deal. But we're not going to talk about it yet. We're going to talk about that next week.
That's nice. No, that's great. You're right, man. You're spot on there. Obviously, Warrior Logo Wear is in my backyard here in Mascoutah, but we've done the watch party thing at Felix's, and we've had great turnouts there both times. It's always a lot of fun. Great people over there, and not necessarily in our backyard as far as our community goes, but our extended community right. in St. Louis. And, it's great to see people get together like that, and just an awesome just spot. I mean, take the food away, take the food out of it, right? Like Felix is great. The pizza's amazing, but there's so much more to it than that. It's just a cool place to hang out, and the people there are awesome. And then, obviously what we have going with the St. Louis Kolache, which is great. And then Ready to Live Wellness. So all the sponsors we certainly appreciate and couldn't do without them, and love that people are out there actively supporting them, as well as we've seen it so many times making, here in some of our submissions that we're doing as well. But appreciate them, of course, and appreciate all you, again, continuing to support them. Getting into news and notes from the back post, Dave, I'm sure you've got some things that you would like to share with us this evening, and I always love this segment because I get to learn a little bit too, because I don't pay as much attention to the soccer world as you and Eric, but you're flying solo this week, Dave. Please enlighten us this evening, sir.
Yeah, I was looking for news and notes, and I keep coming up with just the most negative things because not a lot great has happened to the soccer teams that I support over the last 3 or 4 days. But I'll start in the international world, where we'll go back to Thursday. Since we're in the international break, the United States men's team has been involved in the UEFA Nations League tournament, as you know, over the last couple of months. That was the game where they played at City Park against Jamaica back in November. This was the semifinals were Thursday. They played Panama, a team that they've now lost to 3 straight times in major CONCACAF tournaments. They lose 1-0 to Panama.
And they got a good squad this year, Dave.
Yeah, they certainly can soccer. In all seriousness, Panama, I'm not taking them lightly. They have given this team trouble. Their CONCACAF teams are hard nosed and physical, and they dabble in S-housery, and they're full of professionals too. So they's on scholarship too, as the great Doug Vaughn likes to say. But yeah, they dropped that game Thursday to Panama 1-0 in the 94th minute. It was just a lackluster effort. And what's really disheartening about that game was that you pretty much had your A squad, maybe not the exact team you're going to have when you go into the World Cup next year, but it was not great. Not a whole lot of chances created. Very flat. Looked like a tired team, and just kind of bereft of ideas. It was really cool though when the and you could check this out if you haven't already. It's gone viral. When Panama scored, it was in the 94th minute, and they scored towards where the Paramount Plus post game show was, and the guy scores the goal, jumps the advertising billboards, and goes and hugs Thierry Henry. who even you know who Thierry Henry is.
Dude, I played so much FIFA 2006, I think it was. I couldn't pronounce his name.
It's so cool. He jumped the billboard and he just kind of jumps up on stage and hugs Thierry Henry and he told him, "You were my idol." And that was a really cool moment. Cool. Like you're beating our team or our country, and even Clint Dempsey, who's a United States soccer legend, had to kind of smile at that. So that wasn't great. Awesome. Compounded by the loss that just wrapped up, and again, we're recording on Sunday, so this won't come out until Tuesday. But lost to Canada 2-1. Canada's got a good squad too, but again, the United States has more top-level club players now than they've ever had, and Canada does too. So let's not take them lightly. But this is not a team that should be losing any sort of international games to CONCACAF right now. And
no Heebs in that.
No Heebs in the Canada squad this time.
Because he's been a part of that squad before.
He has been in the past. Yeah, I don't know if he got a call up. He must not have. Obviously, I think he probably would have taken it. But yeah, 2-1 to Canada full time. So they finish outside the top 3. No podiums for the United States. Very, very Max Verstappen of them, unfortunately. That's an F1
shot at Max Verstappen.
That's an F1 shot at Max Verstappen.
Because Lando keeps dominating, man.
Oscar won last night. Yeah. Oscar and Lando, McLaren, baby.
Yep.
And then
I got into F1. I got into F1 because Alfa Romeo had an F1.
That's a poor team.
Yeah, they weren't any good, but I have an Alfa Romeo, right? So I liked them because of that. So I followed them a little bit, and then they got rid of them. Like 2 years ago. Now Acura's in there instead of Alfa Romeo. So I can't even watch it anymore. Like they took my squad away. It's disappointing.
I mean, you could go for Team Ferrari if you want.
I have a question for you, Dave. You're a football fan. People that don't know you. I would say, and I could be wrong on this, soccer might be number one for you still. I don't know, but you love football, love the NFL. Mm-hmm. Big football guy, right? So my company that I work for gave away a gift to the top seller at the organization. I did not win it. I wasn't far off from it, I don't think, Dave, but I didn't win it. But the individual that won it got to choose between going to the Super Bowl this year in New Orleans. Now, I know you love New Orleans, so let's take that out of the equation.
A different site. Okay.
Yeah, right, because that could be a deal maker for you for sure. Yeah. So it was either go to New Orleans to watch the Super Bowl this year, or go to Miami to watch the F1 Grand Prix. And that was the gift. You get to choose either or. What are you picking in that situation?
That's Super Bowl.
Super Bowl.
I'm not nearly enough of an F1 person, and from what I do, if I had to, so the better question is, what F1 race would it take to compare to the Super Bowl? And from what I've known, and it's only been a couple years since I've been watching this, but from what I'm seeing, probably one of the only ones that could compare to Super Bowl is the British Grand Prix. That's the only one that I would consider even remotely as culturally significant as a Super Bowl. So no, it's still a Super Bowl. What about you? What can we put another sporting event for you up against the Super Bowl, like some Game 7 or some other final or something like that?
If the Cardinals are in it, it's a no-brainer. No-brainer for me.
Game 7 World Series Cardinals
over
the Super Bowl.
I'm going. Yeah, I don't care about the Super Bowl. Yeah, I mean, of course. If the Cardinals are in it, I'm going to the Cardinals World Series game. If we had a football team here and they were in it, then I would choose the Super Bowl, obviously. But yeah, I think the Cardinals would be number one for me. The Super Bowl would be. I mean, that would be a really cool experience. If I get a choice, I'm choosing the Super Bowl over the F1 Grand Prix. He actually did choose the F1 event in Miami. So, but it was more of an extended vacation thing, and I think it worked better with timing for him or whatever it may be. Yeah. So he's going to spend some time in Miami and go down to Key West and everything. So, a little bit of a unique situation. On the surface, though, I'm going Super Bowl. Although I think an F1 Grand Prix in Miami would be a pretty good time.
I think it'd be cool. I think American-wise, I think I'd rather go to the Vegas one, to be honest. Other than the spectacle of the one in Vegas. The spectacle of the one in Vegas was unreal. As long as they fix the pothole situation. Yeah. So
Yeah, it's super cool when you're like driving and you can see the sphere in the background all lit up at one of the turns.
That was awesome.
It was so cool.
That was awesome. Last bit of news and notes. We will end on a positive note, as there is a City team that won this weekend. That was City 2. They are now 3-0, taking all 9 points from their first 3 games. They knocked off Sporting Kansas City 2, womp womp, who are 0-3. It was a 2-0 win. Makai Joyner with a pen, and then Gabriel Makina with a goal in the 86th minute. Interesting in this game was that Timo Baumgartel started and got some significant time. So not getting City 1 minutes, but getting City 2 minutes. Read into that whatever you'd like. But this was at Energizer Park. Looked like it was a pretty decent crowd for a nice little Sunday afternoon game. And next week they're following up the City matinee with a City 2 matinee later. So I think you get 2 for 1 next week too. I think you've ever taken to the City crowd. Game. Yeah, it'd be a big crowd.
Yep. Didn't they just play SKC? Wasn't that the really bad field at the middle of the park?
They played on like blacktop. Yeah. That was rough. But yeah.
Wow.
Always nice.
That's great.
So those are your news
Any
and
other?
Notes.
Okay. No, that's it. Just a couple things.
That's it. Well, I want
to
end on a high note. Can't go into any more negativity. There's plenty of stuff going on, but Eric's not here. I'd like to keep the episode under an hour and 20 minutes also.
I appreciate that. It's 50 minutes right now, Dave, so we're going to get the people out of here in time for sure. Remember, we do have the second episode of the week will air, the match week preview, as City will take on Austin FC in St. Louis coming up on that Saturday matinee. So we'll break down that, and we'll get into the Felix's Pizza Pub South End submissions coming up as well. Dave, there are a lot of Reddit responses to this. How can people find us on Reddit and actually go out there to the socials to look for us?
So our Reddit, I believe, is the same as our Instagram handle, correct? Isn't that what Eric says every week? So
yes, he does.
Capital SES_podcast STL on Reddit and Instagram, and on Twitter you can find us. Is it just at South End Supporters? I think it is something like that. I think
so. Eric knows all this. We don't know any of
this. No,
it's
at SES_podcast STL. You can find us. We're out there. Just search us. You'll find us. Just harass us.
Type in South End Supporters. Just
type in South End Supporters.
Do a Google search.
Yeah.
Just do a Google search. It's so hard to remember all the ats and the handles. I never remember them, but Eric's good at reciting those.
He is.
I just realized how much I miss him on the show. So
he plays a big role. He would say, don't forget to go check out our YouTube, also like and subscribe, because we're trying to build that thing up. We'd like to get to a nice big round number, like maybe 100 subscribers by the end of the season, and maybe we give something away. Maybe somebody gets a nice dinner and drinks at Felix's if we get to for the 100th subscriber. That'd be great.
I would like to be the 100th subscriber if that's the case. If you're giving out dinner and drinks to
and none of your immediate family count either. I feel like that's a conflict of interest. I'll take you for dinner and drinks at Felix's. How's that?
Oh, thank you, Dave. That would be amazing. Well, Felix's is one of those amazing sponsors. Felix's Pizza Pub at 6401 Clayton Avenue in Dogtown. Of course, St. Louis Kolache at 1530 South Kirkwood Road in Sunset Hills. Our studio sponsors, Warrior Logo Wear, also the official outfitter and swag sponsor of South End Supporters at 12 East Main Street in Mascoutah, and our title sponsor, Ready to Live Wellness. If you are looking to get swole like Eric Cole, you got to check out Ready to Live Wellness at 1530 South Kings Highway Boulevard. For the Monday Morning Center back, Dave Wyckoff, for Eric Cole, who has been vacationing in the Hamptons, my name is David Heck. You've been listening to South End Supporters. We'll see you next week, and until then, let's go City.